and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix 431st film from 2021. It is the musical called Diana the Musical. This one's directed by Christopher Ashley and stars Jeanna de Waal, Roe Hartrampf, Gareth Keegan, Erin, Davie, and Judy, Kaye. I am Jesse. I am your host. Thank you for joining me today for this Netflix original film. As always, if this is a film that you haven't seen yet and you are interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on, because as we go, I am going to spoil this film. So we start our show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one is a Wikipedia-based musical following Princess Diana from meeting Prince Charles to her tragic death. There you go. That is all you need to know. So if you are a royal family buff, or you love a little bit of drama, or you're a big fan of Princess Diana, maybe this one is for you. Before we get into our early thoughts about this film and what we think about the film, let's have a chat about its background, I guess, and where it comes from. So the film, I guess, as I've mentioned before, the logline on Netflix, this matches up with me, but that says, challenged by royals, hounded by the media, Diana navigates the personal effects of public scrutiny, telling her own story on her own terms. There you go. So, and then as you're watching on Netflix too, it further says the dazzling and devastating life of Princess Diana takes center stage in this original musical, filmed in advance of its official Broadway opening. There you go. There's a little bit of a clue there as well. The tagline for this film was "Celebrate a life unlike any other." I have questions with that because I'm not sure it's a celebration of a life. But anyway, it did have the working title of just Diana, and around the world in Italian it was called Lady Di, the musical, instead of Diana. So there we go. It gives a little bit more information to the audience. This, as touched on just then, is based on the musical called Diana the Musical, with music and lyrics by David Bryan and Joe DePietro, and a book by DePietro based on, obviously, Diana, the Princess of Wales. David Bryan, one of the composers, he's actually Bon Jovi's keyboardist. There you go. So there's a little connection there as well. So this actual stage show, or Broadway musical, as it came to be known, previews for it began on the 19th of February in 2019 at the La Jolie Playhouse, and the world premiere opened the following month on the 3rd of March. The limited run was extended twice and closed on the 14th of April 2019. Following this production at La Jolla, producers continued workshopping the musical, and it was eventually picked up and began previews at the Long Race Theatre on Broadway on the 2nd of March 2020 with the same directing team. However, before opening, the production was recorded in the summer of 2020 with COVID-19 safety protocols in place with no audience. This capture was directed by Ashley and was released on Netflix on the 1st of October 2021. So that's where we are at now. If we talk a little bit more about the show obviously was filmed for Netflix, and then it was meant to open on the 31st of March 2020, but it was suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We go to March of 2021, so 12 months later, where it was announced that the show would resume in December with an official opening set for the 16th. And then we go to May of 2021, where it was announced that previews would begin on the 2nd of November with an opening night set for the 17th of November, nearly a month earlier than initially announced. It was reported that the show played to 51% capacity and grossed $374,000 in the week of the 12th of December 2021, and the show actually closed on the 19th of December after only 33 performances and 16 previews. So this is all sounding like bad news. However, if we sort of look into where we are now, so as of the start of 2023, you can purchase or you can license the show through Broadway licensing. And a concert version of the musical was announced to premiere in London at the Apollo Theatre in December of 2023. In March of 2026, only a couple of months ago, the first production in Australia occurred in Newcastle. We go to this film version that we are talking about. So realistically, there weren't too many shows of this actually performed on stage. They recorded this before it actually opened and released this on Netflix. And because of its release on Netflix, it was nominated in 2022 for 9 Golden Raspberry Awards, which are often seen as the opposite of the Oscars, and they highlight some of the worst performances of the year. So those 9 nominations included Worst Actor, Worst Supporting Actor, Worst Supporting Actress, Worst Screen Combo, and it won for Worst Picture, Worst Director, Worst Actress, Worst Supporting Actress, and Worst Screenplays. So you would have to say it's pretty negative reception for this film. The performer, Jeanna de Waal, who plays Princess Di, she has 35 different costume changes throughout this show. Many are real close-life creations of well-known, well-documented outfits that Princess Diana actually wore in real life. And to me, some of those were done pretty well. So there we go. So as mentioned before, this hit Netflix worldwide on the 1st of October 2021. It was filmed at that Longacre Theatre in New York, in America, and I've spoken about the Razzies, but it was also nominated at the Dorian TV Awards for the campiest TV show. Let's talk about the consensus. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? So, on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have it at a very low 12%. That's on 34 reviews. That is definitely rotten. The audience a little bit higher at 38%. That's on more than 50 ratings. On IMDb, sits at a 4.4 out of 10 on 1,600 ratings, so not a lot of ratings on IMDb. Letterboxd the same. It's only got a bit over 6,000 ratings. Sits at a 2 out of 5 and only been logged by a bit over 8,000 people. So you'd have to say not a lot of people have watched this. And if we go to Metacritic, where they use the traffic light system of red, yellow, and green, red bad, green good, Metacritic, the critics have it at 29 out of 100. That's on 8 reviews. So that is red. That is in the very negative. Audience a little bit higher, 4.7 out of 10 on 17 reviews. So that is in that yellow section. But what are my early thoughts? We review on this podcast based on the film content, based on the film version. So my thoughts on this is based on the final film production, which is on Netflix, and it just doesn't work because there are so many better musicals that were put to film at this stage during COVID, during the pandemic, that worked much better than this one did. So unfortunately, I'm going to be pretty negative. But if we jump into the director, Christopher Ashley, and this is where I make one of those comparisons. He directed the musical movie or the musical recording of the stage show or the stage musical called Come From Away, which at the time during lockdowns I watched. I really enjoyed it. It's about the aeroplane that was heading towards New York City on 9/11 and had to land in a small town. I thought that was really well done. So I'm not sure what sort of happened with this, and it might actually be, thinking about it, the content that he was provided with. The characters in this, these are all well-known characters. I guess maybe not so much for audiences outside the British Commonwealth who have had these characters or these real-life people jammed down their throats for most of their life. But Princess Diana, this musical is named after her, and she is set up in this as I mentioned at the start. This doesn't. It gives a little few comments about her childhood and her background, but this is all about her falling for Charles and marrying Charles and their relationship. And it's icky. So she's set up as someone who was a kindergarten teacher. She's wooed by this idealist fairy tale, I guess, to not only feel loved, but be a part of this monarchy and be the princess. But her husband loves someone else. Prince Charles, from the start, from the get-go of this musical, loves Camilla. And Diana, it's mentioned, has come from a broken home. And she wants to make sure that this isn't repeated in her own life. So when Diana and Charles have kids, this is her connection, is that she wants to be there for their 2 sons. But Charles cheats, she cheats, they divorce, and she dies. And that's the narrative of this character throughout, all done through song and dance, obviously. So Charles, I've touched on. He's the current king. He is the king of England at the moment. And if you need a reason to not like the royal family or the monarchy, this is the guy. And it blows my mind still that he didn't step aside to allow his eldest son, William, to take the crown. So I'm very interested in other people's thoughts on Charles in this, and in real life too. Camilla is Charles's mistress, and she appears right from the very start as the love of Charles and plays that enemy to Diana throughout this film production. Queen Elizabeth is in the narrative to almost uphold the values and traditions of the monarchy throughout. Not there an awful lot. The same with Sarah, who is Diana's sister. She's there so Diana's got someone to talk through her issues, her feelings. And it's mentioned that Charles used to court her too. So this sort of paints a picture of the sort of character that Prince Charles is. Paul plays a role. Paul is set up once Diana marries Charles to have some support at Buckingham Palace and almost like a butler or a guard who's there for her, and he has one song in this production. Then the final two little side characters. We've got Barbara Cartland. This is a romance novelist that Diana loves reading her work, and she's played in this production as the same actor who plays the Queen Elizabeth, so she pops up for some awkward moments and some songs to progress the narrative. And one of those moments that Barbara pops up for is this James Hewitt character, who is Diana's love interest, and his opening scene, he has to wear no shirt to make him look appealing, obviously, and I think it's pretty clear he maybe doesn't necessarily really care about Diana, because he chooses a promotion in the military over her, and he's just there. I mean, I feel like Diana could see herself through this version of moving to America with him and starting the next part of her family, but that wasn't to be. Let's talk about some scenes. What scenes didn't work? What worked? So the stuff that worked in this one, there's a moment where Charles says that he's talking to Camilla, and he says, Diana's pretty, and Camilla says, you never cared about that. I laughed. I think I was supposed to laugh, and we'll talk about in a moment why it was tricky to know what was meant to be humorous and what was just really poor writing, but I think I was supposed to laugh because of how the media and the press have portrayed Camilla as ugly throughout the years, so I think that was meant to be a joke or a whack on that. There's a shot on Camilla's face at Charles and Diana's wedding, and she looked so sad. I just laughed. I thought it was quite laughable, but it made me laugh in a good way. Some of the costume changes for Diana, they were really well done. Impressive in a stage production. And obviously, they just filmed this stage production that they were able to pull that off. I thought that was good. There's a scene or a song as well called Thriller in Manila with Camilla. I just thought that was hilarious. But it was also good to see Diana go pretty hard and stand up for herself against Camilla. And I didn't mind the Queen Elizabeth song about her being an officer's wife and how she was pretty much thrown into the crown. So that was all right there. But what didn't work in this one? The overemphasis on Diana being a virgin. Who cares? It was literally dropped in nearly every song. The differences between Charles and Diana that they tried to highlight this early on through references to their tastes in music. So Diana likes current music and rock and roll and Duran Duran and Air Supply and Dire Straits and Elton John and Freddie Mercury, and Charles likes Bach. And there's this awkward song where Diana goes full rock star on a cello, and there's this awkward chorus dance and Charles gets up to dance. That was just, I didn't like that. I thought all of the dance songs, or all of the dances or songs that involve the paparazzi and the photographers, some of the lyrics in there were pretty on the nose. Charles, like Diana has their first child, William, and Charles holds their first baby, and the line of dialogue he has is jolly well done. Come on. Diana then says, Harry, my ginger-haired son. I laughed. And then she sort of goes off the rails during her mental health postnatal depression moments, and I just didn't like the way this was done, especially the way that they almost joke about self-harm. I thought that was really bad. Charles tells Diana, this is through song as well, is all you have done in life is marry me. And then Diana breaks into a song mentioning I love you in every language possible. Oh, man. So there was just... anyway, keep going. Charles, Camilla, they have this song about missing each other on a Sunday. Oh, so romantic. Didn't like that. The Queen tells Charles not to blame Diana, but to tame her. Oh, come on. This is not dialogue or language we use in the current era. The clearness, or how clear it was that intermission was coming, I just thought that was pretty laughable. James Hewitt then arrives after intermission. This is Diana's love interest, and his arrival without a shirt, and he makes lots of jokes about horse riding and taking Di for a ride, turning it into sexual connotations. I was just like sitting there going, what is this? Then this isn't funny, but the whole Diana visiting the men in the AIDS clinic, like some of the dialogue in there was horrendous. Like, all I care about is, what did one of the characters say? All I care about is eyeliner now. This guy's dying. And then Diana's response is, don't worry, I'll send you a case, please. Come on, that really upset me. The repeated song about bulimia and suicide in relation to Diana just was untasteful. Paul suggests that Diana goes out to get revenge, and there's this song, I think it's called the F off song, because in real life Diana wore this dress that was more revealing than expected by the royal family, and that whole song I didn't like. In the end, I really didn't like that either. Like, there's this just running commentary just of all these random people saying all the good things that Diana had done in her life. They're almost like verbally diarrheaed out, and then she just dies. And instead of finishing the production there on a moment of sadness, there's a shot of Charles, Camilla, and the Queen leave them out. If this is actually called Diana the Musical and it's meant to be the story about her and she's meant to be the hero, I didn't like that end. Other than that, what is the film trying to say? What are the themes? What are the ideas? I think that it's clear that love plays a part in what is love, or Charles's famous line that was jumped on by the press of whatever love means anyway. And I think it's clear you can't make someone love you. If the love doesn't exist, then sometimes those fairy tales don't exist either. And for Diana in particular, freedom is important. Restrictions are tough. But there's also that idea of the duty to the monarchy versus breaking free and doing the right thing by people rather than what's best for the royal family, breaking tradition, keeping up with modernity. And that idea of a hero versus a victim as well. But I liked that. I think there was one line, it was like, men are cheaters and liars. There we go. Charles, naughty, naughty boy. All right, what did I take away from this film? And this is all tied into some of the things I've already said, but the fact that this wasn't filmed in front of an audience really impacts its ability to connect with an audience. There are parts in this production and this film production that are meant to be humorous, but without the audience laughing, it's almost like the cast just continue on their merry way, because in a stage production, there's almost a pause. There's a wait for the laughter, and then it continues on. But this is almost awkward viewing because the cast don't pause for the laughs or for those moments. They just keep going. So it's fast paced. It just doesn't stop, which keeps your attention most of the time, but it sort of impacts the ability to enjoy it because it's literally just a bunch of songs and dance jammed together. Some other questions, some other pondering, some thoughts. I mean, like, it's pretty clear from everything we've said. It seems like COVID had killed this musical. This musical is pretty much dead because of COVID. And I don't even know if it was going to be successful, even if COVID sort of didn't interrupt its not its theatrical run, its stage run. But the question, I guess, the idea was they put it on Netflix prior to it actually opening. And was this Netflix trying, or not Netflix, but the producers of the musical trying to entice people to go and see it once it was open? Maybe that was the plan, but I think, maybe it possibly killed the show even more because people could watch it at home, have a laugh at it and go, why would I pay a lot of money to go and watch this live in person too? Charles, I think I've sort of touched on, I'm not a big fan of Charles, but the idea that there's a line of dialogue when him and Diana go to Wales and she impresses all the people. They love her freshness and he's singing about Wales fell in love with him. I'm intrigued. Like, I don't know. I don't have time to look it up. I don't want to look it up, but I just thought that was an interesting line that I'm pretty sure that Diana was more loved than him. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm ready to wrap. I've spoken enough. We give the films a rating out of 5, and that's what I am rating this film, not the actual stage show, the musical. I'm talking about what I saw on the screen, and I think I've probably mentioned this at some stage over the last 8 years on this show. I'm not a huge fan of the royal family. I like Diana, but I'm not a big fan of what the monarchy and what this family stands for. And this didn't help. The fact that Charles is now the king and his portrayal in this just makes you feel a bit gross, to be honest. And I also think that it's not a good musical, unfortunately, that they had much to work with, and it wasn't filmed very well at all. So for me, it's only half a star out of 5. Pretty ordinary from me. We're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like on those platforms if you can. The question that I wanted to ask is the way that Diana's shown in this just as bad as the tabloids during her life? And there's a lot of criticism in this musical about how hard a ride she copped from the paparazzi and the journalists and all of those types of things. So to me, like, this is almost as gross in a production of almost trying to make money off her life. That's just how I felt. Let me know what you think. Other than that, we are back next week. Next week, we have an international film from 2021. It's the Dutch drama called Forever Rich. This one's directed by Shady Al Hamous and stars Yutha Wong-Lo Singh, Heydwig Minis, and Jonas Smulders. There we go. Never heard of this before. I've got no idea what we're in for next week. I hope you're along for the ride, and I will see you then.